Hello and welcome to another video from me, Rough Swordsman Wargamer. It's part 4 of my back to front playthrough of the Doolittle raid, designed by Jeremy White and published by GMT Games. In the last video, we went through the naval turn. Now we're coming to the end, and this video will be concerned with planning. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have seen that there is actually another part to the rules, denouement, but we won't be covering that because that deals with what happens to the pilots after they've bombed their targets, and it's easy enough if you wish to use that to bolt that on to the end of the game. For the planning turn of the game, we are going to be using this part of the map mainly, with the carrier deck included as well. Hope you can see this. We'll try and zoom in a bit for each individual part, but it's split into 4 months: January, February, March and April. And this part of the game is, some say, the most important because the decisions you make will greatly affect the rest of the game. And so, having said that, the decisions I'm going to make are not necessarily what you would do, but the idea is to show you an overview of this turn, and you can make your own decisions as you see fit. So basically, January is where we are going to try and use diplomatic means to try and convince China and possibly Russia to allow our planes to land after the raid. February is going to be concerned with modifications to the B-25s, which will affect the overall course of the raid. March is mainly concerned with training, and April is where we're going to be transiting to the carrier deck. So, January 1942. Before we start, as always, make sure you have the planning turn player aid to hand. That'll be a great help. And also the security track is set to 0. Everything on there is at 0. It won't stay that way, but there we are. So January 1942. This is where we will do our diplomacy checks to see whether or not Nimitz will join up with us, and whether or not our diplomats have been successful in negotiating with China and or Russia for landing sites after the raid. Here are the diplomats. We've got Thompson, and he's going to be trying to convince Stalin to let us land if we use him. Stillwell for the China landings. And although not technically a diplomat, for this part he's sort of treated as one. Nimitz. Now we have to decide where we're going to place each one of those diplomats on their respective calendar. We have to place at least 2, one of which is Nimitz, of course, and one or both of these diplomats. Depending on where you place your diplomat will show you when you do your diplomacy test. So even Nimitz, we can't do much with him until February. Up here you can see some numbers, and this part of the turn is like this. If you want something early, you can go for it, but it may come at a cost. If you want more modifications, you can, but it will come at a cost. So there's pluses and minuses to every decision you make in this part of the game. Up here, these numbers mean additions to your security risk. That number, remember, you have to throw or under with your security dice, if you like. So placing him here means you won't get any additions to your security risk. But to be successful, the number you have to throw is higher. See what I mean? Pluses and minuses. We have a lower number here to be successful, because you can see there's yes or no's here. But we will get a +3 to our security risk. So I think we'll place Nimitz here. And yeah, just to be clear, when we do the diplomacy checks, we roll 2 dice. In that range, no, we weren't successful, didn't convince. And yes, we need that number. So we'll pop him here. That means, of course, that we can't do our check until February. For the landings, if we're not successful, we're in trouble. So we've got to make sure that we get at least one country that will let us land our B-25s. China is going to be the best bet, because as you can see, as you go down the months, it gets easier to convince the Chinese to let us land there. But we've got less chances of being successful. USSR, you can see it gets worse as time goes on. We need to make sure we have a landing site. So what I'll do is I think I'll put Stillwell here. I know it means we're going to get a +4 to our security risk. And my thought processes are we need a landing site. When you play it, you may weigh up the odds and take a chance, and this is it. It's up to you. For Thompson, however, I'm going to put him down here in April, just in case, sort of belt and braces, in case we don't get the China landing sites. It doesn't add anything to our security risk, but we have to throw a 6. Not much of a chance, but it's there. Next, you can see here, there's a little box, if Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle is present, +1 modifier. There's one of these little boxes in every month. And if Doolittle is in that box, you will get that benefit. So for this one, we're going to get a +1 modifier to our die rolls for our diplomacy checks. And here's Doolittle. Now, you can either have him that side up, which means you have to pick one of these boxes, and that's where he'll stay, and you'll just get the one benefit, or you can put him on the telephone. That means he can go in every box for every month, but at a cost again. There may be some changes to the security value and the security risk, but I like to put him there so we get the benefits of all the little boxes. Next, we have to select our B-25s that are going on the mission. We can select as many or as few as we want. However, if we select more than 18, we will increase the security risk again. So we're going to be choosing 18. And I don't think it matters if you choose them randomly or pick them. So I'll be choosing 18. There we are. And these are just put to one side for the moment. Once you've chosen them, you can't change it. And now we check to see if there are any diplomacy checks for January. And as you can see here, we've got Stillwell to try and get our China landings. And we'll need a 9 or more with 2 dice. These are voluntary, always, but of course you want to make sure that you get the result you want. We can modify our chances of getting that die roll of 9 or more by telling Stillwell that it's urgent and also briefing him. However, these, as always, come at a cost later on. We can also involve the leader, Chiang, and he can be briefed as well. Each briefing marker and urgent marker will add +1 to the die roll. But it is imperative that we do get, I think, those landing sites in China. However, if we fail, Next time we throw for a diplomacy check in February, we will turn over Chiang and he will give us a -1 because he denied us in the previous month. So this is where the first sort of decision comes in. We also get a +1, remember, because Doolittle is on the telephone there. So yeah, let's put Chiang there and we'll brief Chiang, and we'll place an urgent marker on Stillwell as well. Now the good thing is, if we don't make the throw in February, we can do it again, as I said, and we can add another urgent marker to give us another +1. So let's see what we get. Not sure if we can get that in. Shot. That'll have to do. So 2 dice. We're looking for a 9 or more. We've got a +1, a +2 and a +3. That's a 7. +3 is 10. We've done it. So I believe we can take these off now. They've done their job, and we turn this over. We have now got landing sites in China, thank goodness. We don't check Nimitz until February, and we don't have to do a diplomacy check, but that doesn't happen until April. Now we've been granted permission to land in China, we can now attempt to prepare landing sites in China. So let's have a look at that. Oh, back here for a minute. I think we have to leave these on because, as I said, they are going to adjust things on the security track. So here we are up the other end of the map, looking at the Chinese landing sites, and we can attempt to prepare landing sites in China now, and we can do this once per month. And I'm looking at the sites here because they're the nearest to the B-25s flying in. And to attempt to prepare the landing sites, there's a little number here which is called the stockpile number, and that's the number we have to throw, or better, to be successful. And if we are, we can then prepare the landing site by putting in ground crew and fuel. So let's see. So excuse me if I mispronounce the names. Yushan, you can see there we need a 7+. There are no modifiers, so here we go. 8, that's fine. Now, do we need some others? We can try all these. The problem is, you think, yeah, let's do them all. Once you have landing sites, we have to do event checks. And this may result in the Japanese attacking our landing sites. And if they're successful, they've gone. We can't land there or anything. But as we were successful, we need to randomly draw one of these, a landing beacon. So we pop those in a cup and we draw it face down as per normal for all these things. And pop it on there. Okay, let's try Lishu now. We need an 8 or more. No, we can try next month, but no, that's no good. We'll try Crew Chow. That's 9. No, 7. We might as well try them all. We've only got one. But this one's a bit further out. Cayenne, 6 or more. Yep, we did that. So There we are. And oh, okay, we might as well try Quilin. Again, this is what's great about this turn, is that it's up to you how many chances you want to take, how many things you want to do. Because trust me, it will influence whether or not you are successful in the rest of the game. But this one, 5 or more, but it's miles away, look. And we have to use a fuel to get into it. But here we go. Right. Now we have to put ground crew and fuel in these sites, but we are limited to 1 ground crew per month or turn, not per site. And we are allowed to put 8 fuel per turn in total, not per site. And if you remember from a previous video, there they are, there's 2 units of fuel. And if we turn it over, we get a single one. So 8 in total. Spread amongst these landing sites. So I think we'll put 2 here, 2 here, and 4 there. Now, because we have 1 or more landing sites in China, we have to do an event check. So we're going to roll 2 dice. There is a -1 modifier if we have 3 or more landing sites, which is another reason maybe you don't want to go bonkers with the landing sites. So let's see what happens. Seven -1 is 6. That's storm. We now have to see which landing site is affected by the storm. And if it's one of ours, we have to remove a fuel. So, again, 2 dice. We get a 3. And that's Yuhan. Oh! So, a fuel is removed. Yeah, as you just saw, I misread the rules. It's a 1d6 worth of fuel, not 1 fuel. So here we go. 2. So, 2 fuel. Oops. There we go, 2 fuel. Right, now it's time for the February turn. February is where we sort out modifications for the B-25s. And here are all the modifications we can do. And that will affect things like weight and training points and gunnery points as well, the amount of dice we can throw against interceptors on the target maps. First thing we'll do though is move Doolittle down. We don't really have to. At this point, this isn't going to affect us too much because it says there, if Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle is present, no delay mod. Now further up the line, we will be doing a delay check to see if there's any delay for the rendezvous with Nimitz. And the amount of modifications we do in this part will give us a modifier that will adjust the delay check. But if Doolittle is here, we don't take that particular modifier into account. But as I say, at the moment, it doesn't affect us. On the track at the bottom, we will put how many modifications we do. So it starts at 0, of course. We haven't done any yet. Weight is sort of the normal weight of a B-25. We haven't done any adjustments to reduce or increase the weight, so that starts there. And guns is the amount of gunnery dice we have to start with. And if we look up here, we can see we've got 2 gunnery dice here and 1 here. This may change, but for the moment it starts at 3. So the first modification is the radio. The B25s are equipped with liaison radio sets. If we remove it, it will decrease the weight by 1, but of course the crews won't then be able to contact each other during the flight turn, and that could affect navigation. And things like faulty compass and compass error hazards will be in effect. If we keep it as is, those hazards won't affect the B25s, but we will have to make instead a security check. So I think what we'll do is we'll remove it. That will decrease the weight as well. So we pop that there. We move the mods up to 1, and the weight will come down by 1. Next, bomb sights. They're equipped, as you can see, with the Norden bomb sight. At the moment, the B-25s can enter the target maps at high altitude. I don't think that's particularly advantageous at the moment, but as I say, the modifications I'm making in this overview of the turn aren't necessarily the ones you will make. So we can remove that, but that is a modification, so we're now up to 2. But if we don't have a bomb sight, we can't bomb anything. So what we'll do then is replace it with the Mark Twain, and that will allow us to enter the target maps at low altitude. But again, that is a modification. Next, the engines. This concerns the propellers and carburetors. If we make this modification, it means fuel efficient adjustments are made to the carburetors and replacement of propellers. So if we draw the adjusted carburetor transit hazard later on, it won't take effect. It also decreases the weight. So yeah, I think we'll take that. It's a mod, and the weight comes down. Top turret. We can remove or improve the top turret. Why you would want to remove the top turret, I don't know, but there may be a very good reason. What happens is, as you can see there, the weight goes down, but you lose 2 gunnery dice and a morale, which we'll look at when we do March. Or we can improve it, which will maintain our 2 gunnery dice, but will give us a training point. Now, as I said earlier, because Doolittle is here, any modifications we make will not give us an adverse modifier in the delay check. So we could, in theory, do as many modifications as we want, and Doolittle, as he's telephone side up, can move to any of these little boxes at whim. So when we do the delay check, we can move him back into this box, and the delay modifier, which would normally be applied because of the modifications we have done, doesn't take effect. So we can go, unless I'm playing it wrong, let me know, we can go bonkers. So we'll improve the top turret. That will give us an extra training point. And it's another mod. We're up to 5 already, look. Guns stay the same. Armour plating. At the moment, B-25s can take 1 hit. And if they do, they get one of these. If they get a second hit, they are destroyed. However, you can remove armour plating to save weight, but that does mean that 1 hit on the B-25s will cause it to be destroyed. You can, if you wish, add extra armour plating, which will add a weight, of course. And now, when you get a damage, we can flip this over. And we now get an extra life, if you like. It takes 3 hits to destroy the B-25. I think we'll leave that and move on to the tail. We can install fake guns into the tail of the B-25s, more for a sort of morale booster, if you like, but we will get an extra training point. And again, it's up to you entirely what you do. We're going to leave that one. The next one is de-icers. And if you have landing sites in the USSR, this will improve the B-25's ability to land in Vladivostok, because it's blooming cold. But this only applies really in the denouement part of the game, which we're not doing, of course. So we'll leave that one. Tankage. Dual purpose, this one. We can either adjust the amount of fuel or the amount of ordnance the B-25s carry. At the moment, if we do nothing, you can see here 6 fuel. In other words, 3 of these, which makes 6. Or we can have extra fuel, which will give us 8 fuel. Now, if you watched the video I did on the flight turn, you saw that fuel gets used up at a rate of knots. We could do 2 mods if we like, and take 10 fuel. You can also increase the amount of bombs, ordnance they carry. Extra ordnance, as you can see there, still have 6 fuel. It will increase the weight, of course. If we do that, we can increase the blast value of released ordnance to 3. No, I think what we'll do is just increase our fuel to 8. Ventral turret. Oh, forgot to move the mods. We're up to 6, I believe. So, the ventral turret. You can remove this, but as you can see with the crossed out icons there, we will lose a training point and lose a weight. And the jam turret flight hazard markers won't affect us. However, improving it will give us an extra training point. So we might as well do that. That's a mod. We're now on 7. So we turn over the counter and it says +6. So we pop that there. Oops. And lastly, the caliber of the guns. We can keep them at 30 caliber, which won't affect the dice we throw for the gunnery check, or we can improve them, which will give us an extra die for that gunnery check. So why not? Let's do that. We are up to 8, and the gunnery check goes up to 4. So that's the modifications, and as you can see, this will give you a big range of variation to the way you do things, and you can try out different modifications, see how that works, and change it if it didn't go to plan. So that's that. Now we do any diplomacy checks. Again, nearly forgot. Before we do the diplomacy checks, remember I said Doolittle, because he's got the telephone, can move anywhere he wishes. So before we do them, we better move him back up to January. And we can get the +1 modifier. This time we're checking to see if Nimitz will insist on escorting us. Let's hope so. We need a 7 or more. If we fail, we'll use this result column here. So it gets worse as we go down the months. We can add briefed and urgent markers to Nimitz to help us to add that +1. We already get a +1 from Doolittle because, as I said, this telephone can move hither and thither wherever it wishes. So what do you think? Let's add a brief marker to him just to help out a bit. So that's a +2 with Doolittle. So can we get that in there? We need, with our +2, 5 or more. Oh, only just. 5 plus the 2, of course, is the 7. We've done it. And Nimitz will be joining us. Now we look at the landing sites. Just before we look at the landing sites, I nearly forgot. As Nimitz is now with us, we'll have some submarines. And we're going to roll a die and see how many of those we're going to get. There we go. If we throw an even number, we get 3. Odd, we only get 2. It's even. We get 3, and these are sorted out during April. So we put those to one side. Right, back at the landing sites. Now the question is, we can roll for these. We've already got a -1 for having 3 landing sites, and the more you have, the more chance something will happen in the event check. But I'd like this one because again it's the nearest landing site, so I think we'll try that one. We need an 8 or more for Lish Hugh. Here we go. No. 6. Well, we'll try next month. However, we can add a ground crew, which we'll place here in Cayenne, and 8 fuel. We can have a maximum of 40 fuel in China, so let's add those. Well, as we lost one in Yushan, we'll add 2, 2 and 4 again. There we go. And just to finish off February, it's the event check. Oops, there we go. 2 dice with a -1 because we have 3 landing sites. Oh, that's not too bad. That's 10. -1 is 9. And hopefully you can see there, no event. So we got away with it. And that is the end of the February turn. I tell you what, I think we'll leave it there. The last video was very long, so I'm going to break this down into 2 smaller videos, hopefully. And the next one will be the last video finishing off the planning turn for March and April. Well, there we go. I hope you can see that the planning turn is a turn where you make lots and lots of decisions, and the decisions you make will affect the outcome of your mission. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have, and you haven't done so already, have a think about subscribing. It does really help the channel. Push the like button, the thumbs up of the video. Comments and sharing the video are welcome. If you want to support the channel a little bit further, you can by buying the channel a coffee. This doesn't cost much, and all the coffees go towards new content for the channel to upload. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description, and thank you. Thank you to those that have already subscribed and are still putting up with me. So, until next time, as always, you take care and goodbye.